Hey guys, what's going on? Laying back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Look Both Ways. Look Both Ways is an American romantic dramedy that tells the story of Natalie Bennett, a young artist who's about to graduate with a world of endless possibilities ahead of her. She has a one-night stand with her friend Gabe, after which her story begins to split into two different realities. The first reality explores her moving to Los Angeles to pursue her career ambitions, while the second shows her coming to terms with her pregnancy and navigating motherhood. Between both realities, Natalie must navigate the challenges of her day-to-day life as she realizes that things don't always go according to plan. I wasn't convinced at first that the movie would be able to balance having essentially two plots at once, but it was able to pull it off in a fun way. It does have its fair share of hiccups, but it still succeeds in telling a simple but meaningful story about self-discovery and dealing with life setbacks. Lili Reinhart plays the lead role of Natalie, and she was fantastic in her performance. While she basically plays the same character twice, she's able to pull off lots of little nuances that make her more emotionally convincing as two separate entities. When she's pregnant, she has to deal with becoming a woman different from who she was before her pregnancy, and when she's in Los Angeles, she's still trying to figure out who she is in the first place, not even having a job when she moves there. Her decisions could be interpreted as reckless, but the fact that she's always trying her best to improve her situation is enough to make me sympathize with her. What makes Natalie stand out as a character is her passion for art. This aspect plays a huge role in both angles, in which she loses sight of it during the pregnancy angle, while she finds her vision suddenly being uprooted and without direction in the career angle. In both realities, she becomes discouraged with her art on account of her life problems, but in different ways, and it's quite realistic in approach. There were times when watching this movie when I thought back to moments where I struggled in my life, so although I don't have an art background and I'm not a parent, I was still able to relate to her in some way. It goes to show that life doesn't always go according to plan, and that sometimes one has to roll with the punches and figure things out either along the way or later on in life. Even though Natalie does suffer, she never stays down for long before dusting herself off and adapting to her circumstances, which made it easy to root for her. As I mentioned earlier, the main gimmick behind this movie is how it balances two realities between the same character. I thought the movie would go overboard with how much it might swap between the two and make a lot of silly jokes, but I was pleasantly surprised by how subtle and understated it actually was. The movie does have some fun with its premise, but it never forgets about its dramatic content. It explores the sacrifices made both for motherhood and in moving away to pursue a dream career, and both angles get their time to shine in various ways. When Natalie becomes a mother, she has to deal with all kinds of things like not being able to see her friend Cara, sorting out her feelings for her daughter's father, and trying to find a path back into art. All of this on top of the already monumental task of being a mother. Out of the two realities, this was definitely my favorite one. It just has so much interesting stuff going on in it. Her decisions affect not just her, but her friends and family as well, as they have to change their lives around Natalie's daughter's needs, yet they remain supportive of what she goes through, and this makes for an uplifting experience. Conversely, the career angle shows Natalie getting an assistant job for an animator and trying desperately to get her portfolio noticed, which she has a hard time doing, and she eventually realizes that her LA prospects may not have been as amazing as she led herself to believe. I felt like this angle was lacking a bit in comparison to the previous one. It's definitely not bad, as it still shows Natalie realizing her true potential in a unique way, but it doesn't feel quite as fleshed out as the pregnancy angle did, and definitely would have benefited from some more screen time to show her fully diving into the message behind her art. The way the realities transition between each other is mostly seamless. Sometimes it can be hard to figure out what timeline the movie is focused on when a switch occurs, but most of the time it's fairly obvious, although again I do wish a bit more screen time was dedicated to Natalie's career timeline. Something that both angles did well though was the romance, which features different characters for each. One reality revolves around Gabe, the father of Natalie's daughter, while the other features Jake, a co-worker at the animation studio where Natalie works. What I like about each of these romances is that they develop naturally, and don't play out like how one might see in a typical romance movie. Natalie's bond with Jake takes its time to develop as they go from being friends to something more, while her bond with Gabe is complicated as he doesn't even start off being in love with her. I just enjoyed seeing how unconventional and realistic the romance was. The comedy is on the lighter side of things, but it still remains enjoyable. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of little things and inconveniences associated with Natalie's pregnancy and her art career that are pretty amusing, and Luke Wilson's performance as Natalie's father is amazing. I always got a huge kick out of any time he appeared on screen. There are times when tonal shifts can occur during scenes that are supposed to be serious, especially when Natalie announces her pregnancy to her parents, and for some reason the movie goes for a more comedic vibe which felt out of place. It doesn't happen often, but it was pretty jarring when it did. For the most part though, it seemed like the movie lacked any sort of conflict until much later into the movie, which is kind of a double-edged sword. Even though there are dramatic events that happen in both realities, it took a long time before there was any weight behind them. However, I will admit that it's also nice to have a story, or I suppose two stories, that's uplifting without resorting to cringeworthy humor. All of the characters act and speak naturally, and the tone remains almost consistently positive throughout, which reinforces Natalie's optimistic outlook in spite of her struggles, and it just makes it a pleasure to watch. The best part about the movie is how it approaches its multiple realities. Neither side is painted as the wrong choice, with each version having their own pros and cons, and showing in great detail the different challenges Natalie has with them and how she's able to overcome them. In this regard, the movie has a great message behind it. It shows how unpredictable and hard life can be, but also reinforces that tough times don't last forever, and that in the end everything will turn out okay. And the way the movie succeeds with this concept in two narratives doubles the impact of its message. Overall, Look Both Ways is a great comedy drama that explores one's journey to self-discovery in multiple ways while doing so in lighthearted fashion. If you like dramedies with romance involved and you want to watch a movie that's more easygoing and not too serious with its story, I think you should check this one out. It's definitely a more comfort-oriented experience, though this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Lili Reinhart's captivating performance and the intriguing use of dual realities make it easy for the viewer to reflect upon where they came from and, more importantly, where they'll go from here. What did you think about this movie? Did you like how it approached its multiple storylines, or did you find this concept to fall short in its execution? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Look Both Ways. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Polish erotic thriller, The Next 365 Days. Bye bye!